Hey, this is Nick the Mining Book Guy. It is the afternoon of Saturday, December 17th. This video should be going out morning of Monday, December 19th. And as you can see, the main focus will be Osino Resources, OSI, on the TSXV, and there will also be a section on Chester Resources, CHC, on the ASX. And it's been a while since I've made a video. In case anyone's been following or wondering what's been going on, last video was I believe in May, so it's been at least 6 months. And I really wanted to put out at least one video on shell companies between now and or May and now, and it just didn't work out for a few reasons. I will talk about that at the end of this video, but fear not, this is a really, really exciting time to be looking at quality companies in the sector. And of course, a lot of I've been bullish on Osino Resources, but I really, really haven't been more of a bull than now. And there's a lot of reasons this is the perfect time to revisit basically my two top holdings and top picks. Even though I own a lot of other companies, including in Africa, but these are really top ones. And I should just say, full disclosure, I may buy or sell at any time. I'm independent from these companies. All thoughts are mine and mine alone, and any errors are mine as well. I'll have a full disclosure in the notes below this video, and also a bunch of links that you can check out at your own leisure of what we're going to discuss. But with Osino in Namibia being our main focus, I really want to point out that there's been an incredible amount of news since the last time I did a video in May. Gosh, there's got to be at least, I'm just looking at the Osino news, 20 to 30 news releases, and a lot of them really material and really exciting. And I can't talk about it all, of course, but I wanted to distill it to, I'd say, three main areas of value, and why I'm just incredibly excited going into not just the next 12 months, but just the next few months about what's going on with the company. And to start, we'll go to the main one. If you haven't been following the company closely, but you have here and there, you probably saw that they had a solid results for their pre-feasibility study announced in September 6th, and that actually was just before Beaver Creek, before the Precious Metal Summit in Beaver Creek, Colorado, which was the last conference I attended. And unfortunately for Osino, and for a lot of companies, it was really a dead environment for releasing news and expecting the market to get excited. And I think that was what was most notable to me, is that places like Beaver Creek and the Denver Gold Forum, which is a week later, are really times for M&A and or talking about M&A and getting ready. And that was not the case this year, or last year, I think, for that matter, but it really was going a few years back. And so we'll get more into the Osino price action, but in terms of the numbers are very solid. But if there was one thing that some people were disappointed by, and I think it's understandable, with the overall capital costs coming in at 375 US, I think a lot of people were thinking it'd be closer to 300 million. Now, keep in mind, 41 million of that was a contingency, and not everyone reports that. You always have to be careful looking across different studies, because there are many companies that will cut corners here and there, and it's not obvious if you don't go through it. But I feel very, very confident that this was a true, very truthful, like you can stand behind this pre-feasibility study. And I actually think that costs are coming down, from when they released it. There weren't that many companies that released studies in the summer or late summer when really in some ways it seemed like inflation was at its peak. But regardless, we now have a project. The first few years are at 200,000 ounces a year. Overall, it's close to 170,000 ounces a year. It's a really solid, top shelf tier 2 project. Not tier 1, but definitely in the top range of tier 2. And it's it's a vanilla project. Like it seems like it's going to be easy to build for a variety of reasons. We'll talk a little bit more about that soon. But going along with this feasibility study was news that came out a little later. And I could also understand some hesitancy on Osino because at that time at Beaver Creek, I think they had 7 or 8 million in cash, and they had to spend some cash on a few things in the company, and of course, some type of raise was going to come down the pipeline. And so the first step was a loan note or credit facility from Nabari, which is very respected in that space. And so they got at least 5 million US with the possibility of two additional tranches. And there were some, warrants associated with it, which were at a premium to where Osino was trading at that time. But really, it was a non-dilutive way to have some money. And I think it was fairly well received by the market. But more importantly, a month later, or just actually, less or 10 days ago or so, they raised almost 12 million Canadian at 80 cents with no warrants. And that was a real positive sign considering the way Osino was trading just a few months earlier. And so now they are well cashed up with this solid project. I mean, you could say they are in one of the best positions just based on those combination of factors. Just as a solid project, you don't have to know anything else. But there are two other real main reasons I'm excited about where Osino is headed. Before I get into those, I should just be clear that I did say, this is my previous video, just because I'm sure I would get called out for it if I didn't say something. This is May 8th. I said Osino is one of the best buying opportunities out there at $1.18. I was just thinking, I can't believe I really deserve egg on my face for that one. I have bought and sold Osino over the years, but since that time I haven't sold anything, and I've been buying more and more. So my cost average of my new shares is close to this 118. So I'm still underwater overall, but I definitely was averaging down from there. So even though I was absolutely wrong about where things were headed over the next 12 months from May 2022, I think that the next few months or next, not even next year, but the next 6 months are really going to be exciting, and it's kind of already started. It's just that it was a very brutal market at that time. And a lot of you know that, and I just want to be upfront about some of the real trades I did. I don't want to say exactly what my position is because I prefer not to get into those specifics. But I will tell you my last 5 trades, just to be upfront with you that I can't tell the future just like anyone else. My last 5 trades for Osino, as it was going down, and I kind of felt that going down from that 110, 120 level, that I thought around 80 cents was going to be the new low. I just didn't foresee it going down lower than that. I bought 3,000 shares at 80 cents. I bought another 3,000 shares at 74, another 4,000 shares at 72, another 4,000 at 70, and another 6,000 at 58. So for me, those are not huge purchases, but it's significant money. And I just kept buying and buying and buying. And of course, I probably should have bought even more in that 50 range. I think it went as low as 52 or 53 cents. And that would have been the perfect time to buy. But that was right after Beaver Creek. And really, I was feeling a little down. I mean, I was basically out of cash there. I had sold a few other things to buy more Osino. But in hindsight, I would have bought even more at that bottom. But it's really important to note that they were able to raise that money since then, and there's a lot of feelings that the new floor is now 80 cents. At that time, it was a lot scarier, but since we have bounced, we have 2 other to me super exciting developments. And the reason I made this video this weekend, what really triggered me, was news a couple days ago, which might be something that a lot of you missed, even people who follow Osino closely. The headline was Osino adds this exciting, large license package, which I wasn't necessarily expecting. It said hosts proprietary geochemical orientation program at Twin Hills. Now, that's intriguing in itself, but you didn't see a name in that headline. You click on the link and the first highlight says Newmont Corporation completes geochemical orientation survey. So that's really, really interesting. There's a lot in that, because on one level, I understand why Osino couldn't put or didn't chose not to put Newmont in the headline. This is not like an official JV or strategic investment. I mean, Newmont's not like, fully teaming up with Osino for the future, but this absolutely could lead to that. And as important, or arguably even more importantly, Newmont is a big company. I mean, there's basically Newmont, Barrick, and then there's the rest. I mean, that's kind of how I feel about it. I guess Agnico Eagle kind of is getting up there too. But this is really cool because it validates the excitement for tier one potential projects, or greenfield projects in Namibia. And this overhead map or plan map is especially interesting because we know Twin Hills well. I mean, this is Osino's really solid tier two project here, but the new licenses are here, and I think Newmont's also interested in Ochi and you can read this. I think it's technical, but it's a really well written news release. But the calcrete and sand cover is partially on Twin Hills. There's even more of it in these other areas, but the combination of Osino and Newmont's new geological techniques or exploration techniques could lead to finding something that's of Newmont scale. And really, Osino should be given value for this. And I think this is also important just to keep in mind. The trading volume's gone down quite a bit. And even on Friday, gosh, 6,000 shares trade in Osino. I mean, people are not really paying attention to kind of what this means. And I'm not saying that you should buy Osino just based on this one piece of news, but this is a whole different element from Osino advancing to a PFS, and it should be given credit, and it should be given more value in the company as time goes on, and maybe it will be early next year if Newmont sees great results from what they're doing here, and wants to formalize some type of partnership with Osino. So keep that in mind. That's a super exciting number two reason that I think this is why Osino is going to build even more positive momentum from a share price standpoint. And there were hints of that. I just wanted to bring this up because if you're a lot of people who follow me know I know Osino or talk about Osino a lot. I've been very bullish on it. And provide a lot of details. But if you haven't seen too many of my videos, or you want a great refresher or primer, this is the best video. This is the Osino Resources Denver Gold Forum. I did not attend it, but it's my favorite, fairly recent presentation from WIA from a few months ago. And I'll have the link in the notes below, but it's also in the bottom left corner of the main website. But about 16 minutes, 30 seconds in, WIA specifically mentioned Osino had some interest from a major gold producer without naming any names. It was just kind of like a hint out there. And when I saw this Newmont news, it made me go back to this, like, oh, cool, you can like connect the dots. And this is why it's important to try to pick up nuggets in different interviews and presentations. And so it's cool to see how that's developed. And I know a few people on CEO.ca picked up on something like that. So kudos to them as well. It's that's why it's good to be engaged with all this news. The third reason, because I got to keep moving, is Ondundu, which I didn't really talk about. It was still kind of developing in the last video I made in May. But you can see here at the end of October, Osino's Maiden resource brought Ondundu up to almost 1 million ounces inferred, which is really cool. Because at that time, when that transaction took place early this year, and don't forget, they bought this from B2 Gold, and B2 Gold actually has a strategic investment in Osino as part of that transaction, which is kind of a cool bonus. But this has added a lot of ounces to Osino. They for a little while it seemed like Osino maybe was going to tap out at 3 million ounces. Well, now they're right around 4 million ounces, and with this news and the Newmont news, the sky's really the limit. I think there's a lot more that could be happening here in the future. So, really a lot to be excited about here with new ounces being added in the area, but also you pay attention to something that is undervalued here. WIA Gold, WIA on the ASX. This is a company that I've mentioned on CEO.ca, months and months ago, but it doesn't get much attention in North America since it's just ASX listed, and none of their drill results are like super high grade or super exciting. But they just had news a few days ago that they confirmed a fourth high grade mineralized zone in multiple kilometers of continuous mineralization. And you can see that from this overhead map. These are the four high grade zones, and it just kind of goes around, kind of unusual looking. But as you scroll down, you can see there's a lot of nice continuity in these intersections, and it's just worth keeping in mind. Kind of keep it in your back pocket, because all of their exploration ground in red for WIA Gold kind of surrounds Ondundu. And actually, you can see at the time, this hasn't been updated. Ondundu, maybe was expected to have just 500,000 ounces. Well, now they're approaching 1 million ounces. And Kokoseb, the name of this WIA Gold discovery, we don't know what the maiden resource will be, but it's very possible there could be multi-million ounces just in this area to go along with B2 Gold's Ojikoto project up here, and then Twin Hills and Navajob down here, and then Newmont's interests are over here. So there's a lot of new discovery potential in Namibia, whether it's directly involving Osino or involving this kind of under the radar ASX early exploration company near Ondundu. It's probably 30, 40 kilometers away. So it's actually to be determined whether Ondundu will still be trucked to Twin Hills, which absolutely could be, or whether maybe there'll be enough one day to have a standalone here. Again, huge value here that has not been included in the Osino share price. So there's, again, these are multiple elements that are just not being valued properly in the company. And this was something from a share price trading perspective that I really wanted to highlight. Kerry Lutz, who's done good work along with Bill Powers from Mining Stock Education. They've done a lot of interviews with Haya. This one caught my attention in November, right around the 16-minute or 16.5-minute mark. If you were going, it was a pretty good interview, but that was the one thing I wanted to highlight here. Haya specifically mentions that I think high net worth Namibian investors were buying into Osino at this time and doing a good job of supporting the stock. And if we look at a 3-month chart, it's very possible it was right around this early November time, where was kind of the last time we saw a lot of volume, though there was actually a few other days, but still that was really nice, because that's what brought Osino up from that 50, 60 cent level to the 80 cent range where we're at now, and then has led to a really nice equity financing. And you can see the volumes really dropped off. So like a lot of these things are coming together for why I wanted to make the video now. So it's a little bit speculative on my part, but like, let's say these were, quality, high net worth Namibian investors who came in, related to around the time period where Haya was interviewed by Kerry Lutz. Since then, the stock has stabilized, but retail, for the most part, is missing. And I have a wide variety of people listening here, and a lot of people, again, know that I'm a fan of Osino. But if this is a stock, whether you're like me, you own a lot of shares, I mean, if I had more cash available, I'd probably, buy a little bit before the end of the year. I'm personally really low right now. But if you have, some cash available, or if you're one of the newer people on my list and you haven't followed Osino that closely, I'm telling you, this, even though we've bounced from the bottom, everything points to Osino being one of the top projects, either to get acquired in the future or go it alone and build it themselves. And I think that's really important to keep in mind, because there's a lot of decent development projects out there that have warning signs or red flags, and Osino has none of them. And just on that point, this isn't one of the main selling points, but I think just to kind of end on Osino, I mentioned Marathon in the last video. Well, Marathon Gold in Newfoundland, the largest project in Newfoundland right now, they came out with an updated feasibility study, and interestingly, it's so similar to Osino in terms of kind of the scale and a lot of the costs. Now, I would recommend if you like to look at studies or want to learn more about the differences between companies. It's a little bit apples and oranges, but Osino has their numbers in USD, and you can see that Marathon has it in Canadian, and then in parentheses, it's in US. Well, the US numbers, a lot of them are fairly similar, but one thing that I'd have to say is a little, just underwhelming from the Marathon side is that the costs have really moved up a lot. So Osino's moved up as well compared to their PEA, but you have to keep in mind not only has Marathon already sunk capital in here, to their credit, they've already raised a lot of the equity side, and so the debt I'm sure won't be too difficult to do. But there's a lot of sustaining capital, and Osino doesn't have that. The sustaining capital numbers, much lower. And again, there's specific reasons that are different with requirements of Newfoundland compared to Namibia, and of course being in Canada versus Africa in general. But that's the type of thing that a lot of people overlook. A lot of times people just look at initial capex and they don't realize that certain companies you have to pump in a lot more money. Or I don't think Marathon's an underground project, but sometimes there's a high sustaining capital for underground projects. It's just something to keep in mind that there's some projects are just simpler than others. And I think Osino, from a project technical standpoint and from a Namibia, working in Namibia and moving things forward, it's ideal. And Haya always says Namibia is the Nevada of Africa, or, it's just superior. And I really believe it. And I think that's going to be what's exciting over the next few months, is that they are probably not going to have much difficulty at all fully funding the project. But there's still, who knows? There could be M&A could pick up in 2023. I'm not going to make that prediction anymore, because I've been wrong on M&A. I really thought this year was going to be it, but a lot of things could be lining up there. So I think whether we go down the full funding and project building or M&A, Osino is going to be a very, very compelling project in either case going into 2023. And so even though we're at we're at 84 cents, cheaper than my last recommendation, still bounced off the bottom. I can't think of a better company at the development stage with all these other exciting things. So again, keep in mind, PFS, we have Ondundu and WIA Gold, and we have Newmont. We've got three very different types of things that make this a very unique, exciting project versus something out there that only depends on the price of gold, because this project is going to get built one way or another. So hope that's reason enough for you to consider buying Osino. And again, it's dead right now. I would love to see some volume come back in, and I think you'll be very happy if at some point in 2023, compared to this 84-cent price, I think we're going to get back into the 3-number range, whether that's in the dollars or $2. So we'll see on that. But I've got to move forward and try to finish up this video. So hope that was a good take on Osino. And so talking about Chesser, this won't be as long. Again, CHC on the ASX. Chesser in some ways is like Osino, but smaller and lagging a bit on the timeline, but in terms of simplicity and being able to move it forward, very similar. And the grade is more compelling. And part of that is supported by a new discovery they made at Karakara. So there's a good and a bad here. This is absolutely what I was expecting in terms of grade, getting above that 2 grams per ton for this. But from this is a satellite deposit in the Diambasud project for Chesser. I really had a feeling it was going to be closer to 150 or 200,000 ounces for the Maiden resource, and it came out to 116. Now, nice to see a lot of it's indicated, and that's the higher grade part. But I was hoping to see the total mineral resource to be over a million. It's close to that, but it's just taking a little longer than I expected. Now, there was also an issue with the scoping study. One of the previous consultants, which has been switched out, they made an issue. There was an issue with the mining scheduling plan, and that was disappointing because it hasn't affected the overall mineral resource, but it did affect, the mining inventory, what actually goes into the pit, the optimized shells for the pits that actually get mined. And so the overall numbers, are nice, but I was hoping this number was going to be closer to 1 million ounces. And, basically we're at 100,000 ounce a year over 7.5 years. And these post-tax numbers, whether it's at $1,600 or $1,800 gold, are actually very similar to the previous study. And so, even with Karakara, things haven't changed that much. Now, it's not really a bad thing, but I have to say I'm disappointed just in the sense I thought we'd be closer to that magical 100,000 ounce a year over 10 years. And I think that, Chesser would be trading much better. It hasn't had, a similar type of bounce from the bottom that Osino has, even though there's, some similarities to the two projects. But, this is still really nice to see that the initial capital and is relatively low. I mean, everything is nice for basically being the center of gravity for the first mine to be built in that part of Senegal. But there's one thing that came out just this last week that is really exciting, that actually, kind of rejuvenates my interest for Chesser going into 2023, because things have been slower than I hoped in 2022. This is a really nice magazine. I'm actually happy that this is available for free. So this link I'll put, I hope it works on everyone's devices. I'm not sure if it will, because it's a little different. You can see that it's like a online magazine here. It's actually a really cool issue, because I think that comes out every 3 months, the Gold Mining Journal, which is part of Paydirt Media in Australia. It's kind of nice to see Richard Hyde on here. There's a nice article about West African resources, and there's a lot of other articles about African or ASX listed African companies. But if we go directly to page 36, there's a fantastic feature article on Chesser. To be honest, it's the best article I've seen on Chesser. So credit to Michael Washburn, who was on a site visit for Chesser in mid-November. I really want to share this with everybody. I don't think many people have read it, because I haven't seen this issue publicized on social media. So if there's just one thing you get out of Chesser, or you're interested in picking up on Chesser, from this video, it's this. So definitely take a good hard look at this article, or articles, I should say, because there's a great, interview with Andrew Grove, the CEO. But then there's this really cool side article. I had no idea that one of the top soccer players from the Senegalese World Cup team from 2002 was the original, I guess, prospector of WIA Resources, which basically owned the ground that's now Chesser's ground. Salif Diao, that's him right here, and that's so cool. That's like a neat side story. So you should read up on that. And I think it's great for having local buy-in in Senegal. But in addition, we have confirmation that Silvercorp chairman Rui Fang, that's him right there, was on the site visit, which is also nice, because I was wondering, how engaged the Silvercorp. It seems like they're very engaged. So they've just kind of been silently sitting on that strategic investment. So that's cool. And then on top of that, we see that Mark Connolly was here, and I think it's his first time back to Senegal since being with Mako, the Mako project, which got bought by Resolute. And this is a nice picture of Mark along with Boubacar, who is Malian national, but who's a really great kind of liaison, who's been really helping move things forward in Senegal. I think he also worked with Mark on the Mako Gold project. So a lot of stuff in 3 or 4 pages here. So that's my number one thing for you to check out on on Chesser if you're interested in an update. But just to share a few other things quickly, because this is not a full overview of Chesser. One of the things, again, that it's more of a question mark than anything else. This was from Barrick's Q2 presentation. It was really exciting to see. It's the first time that there was a whole page devoted to the Bambadji project, which is Barrick's project right next to Chesser. So Chesser's ground's right here, and actually this is all Barrick ground. And I've talked about that in previous videos, and they had some of the best results that I've seen. I mean, this one was really good, 47 meters at 3.76, and that was right here. So like a lot of neat stuff right next to Chesser. But then the next quarter, Barrick barely talked about it, and I think it's still unclear. Is Barrick really think this is going to be a tier 1 project for them, or will they do a deal? And this. I don't think I wanted to be on this page. I just wanted. I guess I'll go real quick. This tells you a lot. So it says massive project gets all clear. Most of what Barrick's talking about recently in terms of new projects is Reko Diq in Pakistan. A big, copper gold porphyry project. And so I think that even though there is a lot of focus on Bambadji, it's like, they internally there's a lot of focus, but in terms of marketing, they want to talk about this. And so I hope that another player, like along with Silvercore, shows interest in this area. And maybe that will force Barrick's hand either to, possibly sell it off because they think it's going to be a great tier 2 project, but not tier 1 Barrick level, or maybe Barrick decides to consolidate the whole area and turn it into, a big tier 1. But I think it's important just to realize Barrick is kind of moving slow or unclear about what their intentions are. But one way or another, Chesser is still in a great, position in the area. So just wanted to point that out. There was also a really detailed investor site tour presentation, which I think just provides further evidence that I went through a lot of these details, but I think that Chesser's, dotting their I's and crossing their T's on everything they need to do to move this project forward. And in that way, I think there's a lot of parallels to Osino in Namibia. Like, these are real projects that know how to move things forward in their respective countries. And I have a lot of confidence for Chesser in that respect. And finally, if there was one video interview, I caught this. I just paused it in the middle 9 minutes. Andrew Grove, the CEO, he gives a good, overview of, value proposition for Chesser. But it was nice to see Mark basically do the last 6 minutes of the interview. And I think, as chairman of the company, he's been more involved. And don't forget, Mark's the one that ran Papillon Resources, which was the Fekola mine that got bought by V2 Gold. And it is the best, basically the best new gold mine that was created almost anywhere in the last decade. And so it's great to have, that firepower on board. And I know that they were both at I think this was from the Precious Metal Summit in Zurich, and they were also at London Mines and Money. And in between those, they went on the site visit to Senegal. So there's clearly a lot going on with Chesser, and hopefully we're finally rounding a corner there. I just wanted to bring this up because, from a year standpoint, or even, ever since basically 2 years ago, it's been kind of downhill. But there are some signs of life, and there have been some buying here. I think, just to wrap things up, I just wanted to be clear in terms of Chesser. Like, gosh, I'm still sitting on a big loss with this one. I bought a lot of shares and, closer to that 13, 14, 15 cent range. But my last repurchases were, 55,000 shares at 9 cents, 50,000 at 8.1 cents, 100,000 shares at 7.3. And then, I could have bought more I think it went just below 7, and we're back at that 8 level. But just to let you know, I averaged down on this the same way as Osino. And maybe I'm not quite as confident on Chesser being a 10 bagger from here, partially because I was hoping that, there'd be more oomph from the Barrick side, or that I could still see that, 10 million ounce future. Maybe we won't reach that, but I think there's still a very good chance of Chester, being at that five bagger level. I just don't necessarily see everything coming together in the next 3 to 6 months the same way I currently see that for Osino. Like Osino, I really see it, and I have a huge position in Chester as well, but I just can't recommend it quite as strongly as Osino, even though from a valuation perspective, I mean, it is super cheap. And Chester, I think, has about 8 million in cash right now, which is good, but we'll see what they have to do in the next, 3 to 6, probably raise more money in the next 3 to 6 months. So also a good buy, but I mainly wanted to tell you about this great article. So definitely check that out, and you can determine for yourself whether this is a good time to buy. But I'm fully invested in both of these companies, and I guess it's just last couple minutes since I'm go long in all these videos, but I want to finish this up quickly. Just going back to my this is my CEO.ca homepage. I haven't posted in a while. I just thought it was worth mentioning. The last time I did public interviews was in February, and I really enjoyed this interview on the mining stock shells. That was with Bill Powers. And then I had one with Jordan Royburn on 10 baggers in Africa. And, some things just take longer than I expected. With Africa, I thought there'd be more M&A this year. I know Orca Gold, soon after this video, I think Orca Gold got bought out by Perseus, which was really cool, but there wasn't any other big transactions like that I can think of. I think Oklo, which was kind of similar to Chester, but they got bought out by B2 Gold. So there were a couple, but not much. And, hopefully that happens in 2023, but I'm not sure. But the other thing, the mining shells, I am still very, very engaged at looking at a lot of shells. And I was very close to being able to make a video, but on a few, but one of them, which is liquid, but it just was moving more slowly than I wanted. And I'm glad I didn't pull the trigger on a video, but it's something I could make a video on next year. I just, you really need a lot of things to align on these little shells. There was another one, and I'll just, just a detail, just to let you know, it's amazing to me that it seemed to have a solid share structure, solid insider ownership, and it got down to 250,000 market cap. I think it's back to like 500,000 market cap, but I mean, super, super liquid. And I barely got a position in it. Maybe one that I'll talk about in a case study in the future, but it's so hard because they take a while to develop. And so I'm just kind of telling you, I was hoping to have other videos, besides just talking about Osino and Chester, which are my favorites, but that's kind of the reason why I didn't have it. But maybe in the future, I'll have some stuff on shells, but just to let you know, I'm still very engaged in that. I still think it's a great time to look at shells. But there's a lot of other opportunities, whether it's development companies or producers out there. So just wanted to finish up on that. I'm still engaged in the sector. It's just been tough to find content to talk about. But I've really enjoyed, representing Osino and Chester to you. I'm sitting on losses with both of them. I've averaged down. They're both good buys here for sure, but especially Osino. Really consider adding to your position or building a position in Osino right now, because I think we're in a great spot for it going into 2023. So again, this is Nick, the Mining Book Guy. Thanks for listening, and hopefully it won't be another 6 months till another video from me. Hopefully I'll have something else for you going into the new year. All right, thanks guys. Bye.